Okay, greetings and hello everyone. Welcome to my Age of Empires for Xbox Beginner's Guide for brand new players. In this video, I'm going to go over how to play Age of Empires 4 if you've never played it before, or specifically how to play it on console. I think this is one of the best RTS games that I've ever played. I absolutely love this game, and we've covered it extensively on our channel, especially the PC version. So if you want to see more videos for Age of Empires 4, be sure to check out the channel. This video, we're going to be focusing specifically on how to get started and knowing the basics for Age 4 on console. When you start on Age 4, you'll start with a handful of villagers, a couple of sheep, and a scout. Now, for the simplicity of this video, I've actually went ahead and revealed the entire map so we can kind of see what our AI opponent is doing here. It looks like they're playing as Abbasid, maybe Delhi. Actually, I could find out. They're playing as Delhi. So, you know, just kind of give us a little bit of a heads up. I'm playing as English, probably the easiest civ to learn in this game. And I guess the question is when you load into a game, what's the first thing you really want to do? I think the first thing you want to do is send the majority, if not all of your villagers to your starting sheep. For everyone's play style, it's going to vary differently between what build you want to do, what you want to accomplish, and what you're looking for early on. I think food is probably one of the most important resources early on in the game, so I send most of my villagers to food. Also, at the same time, I normally send my scout to go around the map and get sheep. Now, you can do this two ways. You can send your scout by pressing A and kind of babysitting it, which, you know, if they're going to go across the map, like let's say they're here, you want them to go all the way down to here. You can just tap A, and your scout will do that. Since it's your only military unit, pressing left on the D-pad will take you straight to your scout if you ever lose where he is. And by you getting sheep, you can return that to your town center. The sheep will follow your scout, so you can continue to get more food. It also gives you line of sight to get a heads up on what your opponent's doing. Now, as you start making your villagers, you want to start training them as soon as you can. And in my opinion, you should always be training villagers. This should never stop. Luckily, on the radio menu for your town center, there is an auto-trained villager. If you're on console, I would say turn that to on, and you never have to worry about forgetting to train villagers. Now, pretty quickly, you'll notice that you've reached your population limit, and you have about 200 wood. You have to expand your population by building additional houses. You can do that by holding down X, pops up a house, and we'll build a house. Then we want to kind of continue to expand our economy in order to get to the next age, which is different on how you age up in Age 4 compared to Age of Empires 2. You actually are going to be building what's called a landmark building. For the English, we're going to need 400 food and 200 gold. So I normally would send 3, maybe sometimes 4 villagers. If you're a beginner, I don't really think the amount of villagers really matters all too much. But I'd say 3 to 4 villagers to your nearest gold pile. Build a mining camp so they can deposit those resources right next to the gold deposit there, and they'll start doing that. Remember, you can command your villagers to do something as soon as they're trained by pressing A, and that'll create a rally point. A lot of civilizations may favor actually going for berries. From a meta standpoint, English, not so much. They really favor farms or getting hunted meat. That's why maybe getting additional sheep would work well for English. But again, for the simplicity of this video, I'm just going to make a mill and have my villagers get the food from there. Going back home, if you don't want to babysit the economy of your villagers, what you can do is take advantage of the economic presets. You can do this by hitting left trigger and then clicking in the right stick, and the prompt actually tells you at the top right of the screen next to the resources. You can set priorities for what you want your villagers to do. Gives you a variety of things, or you can actually create a custom one if you want, and this will automatically assign tasks to your villagers. For your first age up, This one, the food and gold, is pretty awesome. This is exactly what you need. Maybe one villager on wood to build houses if need be, or drop-off buildings. But I really like this basic one. That one works really good too. It really kind of depends, and I think as you progress through the ages, you can kind of change what you need. If you want another town center, you need stone. That's what this one's for. Want to build keeps? That's what this one's for. Transition into farms, you know, so on and so forth. I really like the basic one, so I'm going to press that. You actually notice these idle villagers, I didn't even have to command them to do anything. They're going to automatically go to a particular task. So now that we have a basic of our economy going, keep in mind once again that you want to make sure you're utilizing drop-off buildings to make more efficient use of your villagers, placing them as close as you can to resources, so they don't have to travel as much, because when they're traveling, that's time wasted that they're not working and giving you those resources. So you could have more villagers on a resource, but you're not getting the maximum effort or maximum value of their time or their work if they didn't have those drop-off buildings. You can increase their efficiency by getting upgrades for particular resources. Most of them can be found through their respective buildings. So you want to increase their efficiency with wood. Click on the mining camp right trigger. You can see on the left some descriptions for upgrades for the related resource. There's an overall increase to villager efficiency found in the mill for most civilizations, and that is the wheelbarrow upgrade. Carrying capacity is increased, and movement is increased as well. You get a pretty quick return on that investment. So, you know, it's always a cost analysis, if you will. These resources spent are resources you can't use to the next age up or for additional units. So just keep that in mind as you decide to get upgrades or build units and infrastructure. So I've been blabbering on for quite a while about the economic basics of Age of Empires 4 on console. Let's talk about military for a while. There still is a lot to learn about the economic units in Age 4, but I might make a more advanced video if that's really what the audience wants, so please let me know. Let's move on to military. For military, you can see here I have what's been, this is the Council Hall military landmark. That's a fancy way of saying that this is a archery range unique to the English. It does have some benefits where, if I look at it, it works 100% faster, but it contains all units and technologies found in a regular archery range. So if I look at this Council Hall with the right trigger, you can see this is what it offers. Go over to the regular archery range. It's actually identical. The only difference is this works 100% faster. So if I make a unit out of each, you'll notice that the training icon is so much faster on the Council Hall than the archery range. So if you want a lot of archers very quickly, you can, I guess you should be encouraged to go the Council Hall. Just because these are two separate buildings doesn't mean that you can't train archers out of both at the same time. You can simply hold A to select both of these, and let's say we want to assign that to a control group. Hold down both triggers. This radio menu comes up. We're going to press A to assign those two buildings to this control group. Now, like, let's say I'm looking all the way over here. I still want to train some archers. I can select that, start training some archers, and you'll notice that, yes, both buildings are training archers. We can also send them to the same rally point if we want, just like that. So just keep that in mind. You can also auto queue up 5 units if you want. Instead of mashing down A at the bottom, there's the left trigger. It says queue 5 units. Hold that down, tap A. Now we're queuing 5 archers out of this council hall. Pretty cool. There's other buildings too in Age of Empires 4. You'll notice that the bulk of the way that the units work in this game is kind of similar to Halo Wars if you've ever played that. So you have your archers, you have your infantry, and you have your cavalry. And there's units in each one that can kind of counter the other. Spearmen are kind of your basic infantry, but it tells you on the left here that they're pretty great against cavalry, They're weak against armored infantry. They're talking in regards to generally the man-at-arms. That's your heavy armored melee infantry. They're also countered by archers. So if someone's going basic cavalry, maybe they're going horsemen or knights, from a basic standpoint, spearmen's a pretty good way to go. Just keep in mind, if you have a lot of spearmen and you're going up against someone who's English and they have a lot of archers, you're going to lose that engagement to the archers. If you have archers, you can counter them by going cavalry. Cavalry has really high movement speed. They are really great against archers, but they're countered by spearmen. So on and so forth. It's kind of a rock, paper, scissors formula. There's different combinations in there too. For example, there is the the light crossbowmen here. These are good counters to heavy infantry. So if someone is going, say, man-at-arms, it says that they're countered by knights, lancers, and crossbowmen. If you make crossbowmen, they're anti-armor specialists, so they counter knights, but they themselves can be countered by regular horsemen because they only do damage against heavy. Horsemen are actually light. Knights are the heavy. Does that kind of make sense? They're sometimes light and heavy for individual unit types, and some units counter the other. Okay, so I'm going to get ready to actually attack this gentleman with a little bit of army that I do have now. We're going to wait for some reinforcements to arrive. In the meantime, I'm going to show you what it means to proxy. This is kind of a strategy that is a gamble that can pay off. If you really want to attack your opponent and have a sustained attack where reinforcements are approaching wherever you're attacking in that land area that your opponent controls, maybe a good idea to set up a proxy, and that's simply just building military units kind of close to their base. Reason being you want to do this is, again, it lets your reinforcements get to their side of the map much quicker. When they're training here, they don't have to walk across the map, say, as they were if they were training out of your base. Just keep in mind that you are doing a resource investment not only for the initial cost of these buildings, and you can lose these buildings if you don't properly control this area, but any villagers that you send over here could be vulnerable to attack, and you can lose them, costing you work that your villagers could otherwise be doing. But also the opportunity cost. These villagers walking across the map, building these proxied buildings is time that they could be spent, mining gold or berries. However, if you really want to double down on this and get the most out of it, you can also do something like once they're done doing this, I consider this trolling, is you can start mining their resources. So now that they're done building this proxy, let's go ahead and start mining some of the gold that is technically theirs on their side of the map. Remember, so you can select all your military units by holding left on the D-pad. I actually discourage you from holding Y, which selects all your on-screen units. Just be careful when you're doing that, because you could accidentally say select all of your villagers if they're within the range. You can also do other things like set control groups for various units. The same way that you select a control group for buildings, you can do so for units as well. So just select some group of units, hold down both triggers, and now you can create a control group and see the little number that they're assigned to. You can also do other things too by holding the left trigger. It gives you more options with your D-pad to press and hold. Up on the D-pad selects all your melee units. Right on the D-pad selects all of your ranged units. And down on the D-pad selects all your cavalry. And just remember that melee actually also selects all of your cavalry. I don't know if that's intentional or not. I mean, clearly it is based on that implementation, but I would consider melee to be just these spearmen and man-at-arms, but the game thinks otherwise. You can also set various formations for your units too that might come in handy. I think the default is they'll actually set up this formation here once they all get together. I think they put the archers in the back since they're ranged. Yeah, cav in the front and your melee kind of in the middle. But you can change some of this if you want. One of my favorites is the staggered formation where they kind of spread out a little bit more. I find this helpful if you're going against something like a mangonel that has a big area of effect that can kind of lower the impact if you don't split your units. You can also do other things like a line formation where everyone lines up in a really close line. If you want to do a, kind of take more of a physical, I guess, ground in that regard. You can also do a wedge formation, much like this. You could also, I think by pressing it to go back, it goes to the default formation as well. Finally, let's talk about movements for your units, your military units in Age of Empires. There is the regular moving by pressing A, and remember you can queue up movements by holding the left trigger. But there's also something called attack movements. And let me tell you the difference between the two. If you go to regularly move your units, like let's say I want my units to move, say, right here, they're actually going to walk right past these villagers and go straight to their objective. And that's fine. You know, that works out great for whatever you need your units to do. Looks like he's actually moving them away, or he's building something. However, attack movement means is that those units are going to move over there, but they're going to attack stuff that's on the way. So I'll give you an example. We'll walk right past this lumber camp by just pressing A. They're not going to attack that lumber camp. They're just going to move on about their day. However, if I, let's say, attack move, and you can do that by pressing X, we're immediately going to start attacking this lumber camp and destroy it. So you can utilize this in combat if you want to focus on particular units. Like, let's say you want your archers to kill, say, I don't know, these individual villagers. You can go ahead and press A, and they'll do whatever they can to attack that target. But they're vulnerable right now to these horsemen. If I press X, they're going to change their mind and start attacking the horsemen, which was right in front of them. However, if you tell your units to attack something and they're spread out, they're a good distance away, and that target dies, those units are actually going to stand still because they have no other task to do. So, if I have reinforcements coming over from my main base, and I select all my units, including the ones coming from my base, and I tell them to say, I don't know, destroy this house, and it's destroyed with the units that are already here, the units that are on the way are going to stop moving because that task has been completed. A way to kind of continue them on their task instead is to either A-move them or tell them to walk towards the house without directly attacking it. And then once they're on screen or close enough for you to manually override that command, you can do that there as well. So there is a lot of complexity to Age of Empires 4, both with your economic units, your military units, upgrades, counters, so on and so forth. But overall, the game is incredibly rewarding. It's a lot of fun to play. I think it's something that is easy to learn and hard to master, and those are the kind of games that I absolutely love. And overall, this community is really welcoming to new players. It's much more welcoming than, say, Halo Wars, where everyone's toxic and the community's ruined. Age of Empires 4 has a great community for both Xbox and PC, so give it a shot. If you're overwhelmed with managing your economy, take advantage of these villager presets. Just remember, keep in mind of your drop-off buildings. You want to be as efficient as possible. You know, as you're tearing down a forest, add a new lumber camp, remember to build your houses, etc., etc. But the villager preset thing takes, like, I would say half of everything you need to know about your economy, and you can focus on your military and have some fun with the game. I think it's pretty awesome. I hope this tutorial was helpful for you. Please post your thoughts in the comments down below, how I can improve, what you learned, other tips for new players, that sort of thing. We're live almost every week streaming Age of Empires 4 on our Twitch page. There's a link down below for that. And there's over 220 videos on the channel right now covering Age 4, both on console and PC. We're posting new Age videos almost daily. All right, that's going to do it for me. Thank you all so much for watching, everybody. And I'll see you, James.